Batman Dark Patterns, issue 9. Dan Waters writing with Hayden Sherman on the art. And this is the conclusion to our third arc of this book, this Pareidolia arc.
Yep. In the Rookery, which I love when we get neighborhoods in Gotham like this, because it does make Gotham feel like very vibrant. You know, like when you hear about the Narrows or, you know, Robinson Park or the Hill. Right.
It's funny though, because the Narrows was always mentioned as like the bad part of Gotham, and now this place is clearly worse than the Narrows.
Well, it's like, where's a good part of Gotham? You show me the good part of Gotham, and we'll start there.
You got Bellfinger Avenue on the corner of I don't know, Glenween Lane.
Yeah, you know.
Anyway,
but
yeah, so we have obviously Batman's like tied up. This grandfather and his grandchildren. This guy's claiming to be a part of the Red Hood gang, and he wants to make everyone remember. A lot of this issue though is actually Batman pulling apart this guy's story and saying, "Look, you're old, but you're actually still a little bit too young to have been like part of that gang. You were probably a child who just saw some of this, and it turns out he just kind of witnessed the gang bury this body. It wasn't really his girlfriend. He just knew where it was." Batman points out that, hey, that service rifle you're using is in really bad shape. Any like vet who cared about their gun and like was obsessed with it would not be letting it get to that condition. Like, this is all a crock of shit, basically.
I love the part where Batman asks, well, what was her name? What was her girlfriend's name? And he has nothing. And when I was reading, I thought it was like, oh, this old man doesn't even remember her name. And it was like, well, no, he didn't know her name, because to him, it was actually a random girl, right? He watched the gang do this, and now he's trying to save the Rookery by reminding them of, you know, the gang that was there. And I was like, wow, that was quite a turn I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, but the sad part of it though is that Batman points out that, like, you know, you've put this body to be discovered as a crime scene, and then time went past and no one found it or cared, which is why you eventually set fire to it to draw attention to it so someone would come and find this dead body. But the only person who came was me. Like, I'm the only one who showed up to actually check. And it didn't make anyone know anything. No one else knows about this body other than me. It's not really accomplished anything, and it's still not really changed how people perceive this part of town. And ultimately, you know, it's this idea, to go back into the title of the arc and, you know, the Pareidolia thing, is that, you know, this has all been kind of an illusion, and like this old man wanting to like basically trick people into seeing something that isn't there, right? And I really like at the end of the book, actually, after all this is like falling apart, and we'll talk about how the actual ending happens for the characters, but the final page of this book is a bunch of kids in this like part of town, are, you know, about to get into some trouble, but they look up and see the silhouette of Batman and they run away. But then the final page reveals that it's actually just like a, you know, like a cape like attached to like a chimney, and there's like a spiked thing that looks like the cowl. And it's basically just this idea of them seeing a pattern. But I do kind of like this idea that because he was prilling around in this part of town for like a week or two, like he says, and he feels like it's been a waste of time, and all it led to was causing this conflict that led to these deaths. That in a weird way, he actually has like at least inspired a little bit of like local fear, where like, hey, these people who are around here now are starting to see Batman in the shadows where they didn't before, and it stopped them from doing something bad. So it's not necessarily always a bad thing that people are seeing things where they shouldn't. Like, sometimes it's actually like a natural deterrent, I guess.
When he goes back to Alfred and he's all beat up and he's bleeding from the bullet wound in his back, and he's almost defeated, and there's like, I made it worse. Like, me being there made things worse. And the fact that we follow past Bruce back to the Rookery, and just the vague silhouette of maybe Batman is enough to drive these guys off. And it's like, well, no, his presence does matter. Yeah, you know, he did turn it up for the better.
It's funny because obviously, I'm putting this positive spin on the ending, but for Batman himself, like, he thinks, this was a complete abject failure. He feels miserable, and he's witnessed something really bad, which, it's actually a really dark ending where, like, basically the old man's got the gun, and he's like, like, I mean, just to sum it up, he ends up accidentally shooting one of his grandkids, who dies, and Batman has to like sort of lie there, and he's trying to like get out of his restraints, but even if he does, he knows he's going to be too late. That this kid is definitely dead. The old man is definitely dead. There's the whole, because he starts like clutching his chest after what happens. Like he's like, oh no, my grandson. So he effectively kills over and dies. And Batman feels powerless because he's lying there watching this. He can't do anything, and he's watching these two people die. And it's the really sad part where the second kid was told to go wait outside because he's maybe the younger of the two. Because whatever they were about to do with Batman was going to be dark. And Batman has to go outside, sit next to this kid, and be like, you're like they're all dead.
Don't go in there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call the police, and the kid's like, hey, police aren't gonna show up. This is the Rookery. He's like, they'll show up if I ask them to, but please don't go in there.
Yeah.
And it's just this hopeless, powerless Batman that we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, he doesn't even really explain what happened. He just says, don't go inside, wait for the police. And then as he's walking away, he says, I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't have come here. He feels, honestly, as far as like defeated Batman goes, this does feel like such a failure. Not that he did anything wrong, per se, other than the fact that, much like the title, because right at the start of this arc, they explained what the title pareidolia meant. And the whole arc turns out to be Batman seeing a crime where a crime didn't really exist. I mean, okay, yes, the old man desecrated a grave. That's technically slightly a crime, but other than that,
and they burned down a laundromat, right? But
sure, but it was like it was abandoned though. It wasn't like it was someone was either living there or using it or whatever.
Right.
Like, but he saw a murder crime scene. He investigated a murder, and then that convinced him there was a Red Hood gang return, and that was going to be a big, huge thing. And all it was someone trying to like get attention, and it wasn't any of the things Batman thought it was. So and it's led to this tragedy at the end, which it's not Batman's fault that tragedy happened. It's definitely the old man's fault, but he feels like he failed. It's a bit of a downer story, and I kind of like that. I like, I always like a story. Superheroes obviously usually win at the end of a story, and that makes sense because that's storytelling. But if you've got ongoing characters who you're going to keep telling stories about forever, they have to lose once in a while. Like, it means the victories mean a bit more, they matter a bit more, and it also means you get to see these, like, how they deal with failure, and we get to end on this downer note. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, the panel of the kid bleeding out, and the old man who just had a heart attack, and Bruce is just there bound, and he's just staring at him, and then it gets to, it took him 12 minutes to get off the ropes. Right, it takes him another 2 to get his hands free, or it takes 10 minutes for him to feel his limbs again. Takes 2 to get his hands free, and it was too long for either of them. And it's just that utter, and the art doesn't shy away from that, right? You get the blood behind the kid. I mean, you have the blood around the ropes.
You see the bullet hole on his, like, when the gun goes off, and you can. The sad part is you can see it coming. You see like the old man, the way he's handling the gun, and he's saying, "Hey kid, give me that bucket of whatever the acid is or whatever," and you can see it coming. You can see that he's about to accidentally do something, and sure enough, it hits the kid in the chest. I'm almost surprised they got away with this in a non-mature rated book. To be honest, it's actually a pretty dark scene. So yeah, no, very good. And again, it plays with the color where the kid's wearing red, of course, because he was doing the whole Red Hood thing. And then the old man, as he like kills over and dies, he becomes red, so that in the bottom of that panel where it's just infinite black behind him, he's just red at the bottom. So he's just become, I am become death, destroyer of my grandchildren. So no, and as per usual, the art here, the layouts are very inventive. That panel of the page where he comes home into the cave and Alfred's waiting for him. That's got like a sort of spiral layout, and it kind of feels like everything's revolving around him, or like the room's spinning around him, and he's still like quite hasn't comprehended, or he's still feeling the effects of the fact that he was drugged, but also just the raw emotion of what he's went through. So, I mean, the weird thing is that it's probably my least favorite arc of so far. But it's still very, very good. Like it was like a really downbeat arc. After all the creepiness of the Wound Man, and then the fun of the building being the new Scarface, this feels like we're doing the downer, low key story, and then we'll see what we've got next time.
It's the take your medicine kind of vibe, right? So, which I'm, yeah, and like I feel like you have to ground Batman every once in a while, right? We just had an arc where a building was talking, and like not for real, right? But like the building came to life, and so here, just a reminder of crime takes different faces, and if Batman's constantly looking for the faces in the dark, sometimes they're not there. He needs to be more careful where he's putting his time, you know, and you know that page where it's split down the middle, and Batman's on the left and the Grandpa's on the right, and Batman's bathed in blue, he's bathed in red, and just the way that those panels play out.
Yeah, it's a
with what happens.
2-page layout with a black background, and like all the panels inside the page are all inside their heads, respectively. So it's this 2-page thing where one side's Batman, the other's him. He's all blue with all these panels inside, and then the old man's all red with all his panels inside his head. So yeah.
Yeah. And it just gets you into that. But yeah, it's really, again, I'm glad I was able to spread the gospel of this book this week at the comic book store, because I feel like this one is the best Batman book on the rack right now. So, you know, I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah. All right. Will you give him Batman Dark Patterns issue 9?
I'm 8.5.
Is that an 8.5?
Yes, 8.5.
I think I'm agreeing with that. Yeah, I think 8.5 sounds right to me.